Well, good morning, sports fans of Lincoln and Logan County. This beautiful Saturday morning, March the 12th, 2011. You're listening to the Cheap Seats right here on 96.3 WLCN. Out here at Jake's Furnishings this morning, Cameron Kurtz alongside my co-host Josh Komnick and the furniture guy himself, Jake Johnson. And fellas, we've got a great morning of sports on tap for our listeners this morning. And Josh, a lot of area high school hoops coming down to the final plays of the season, the Class 1A and Class 2A over in Peoria this weekend, and 3 and 4A next weekend. A couple of area schools going at it. We'll get to some of those scores later on. If you're a college basketball fan,
best time of the year.
Oh, exactly. You got a Big Ten tournament this weekend. Other conference tournaments are wrapping up their play this weekend. Selection Sunday is 24 hours away. So college basketball lovers' dream this weekend. The National Football League, you got that lockout that started yesterday. We've also got some local stuff to cover, but a good morning on tap that we have out here. And Jake, first of all, thanks for having us out here and some of the specials you got going on out here this weekend.
Oh, special. You want to talk about specials? We got some specials. Actually, we have some recliners. We're closing out right now. We've got those starting at around $200. Some that were at $499, marked down to $300. We got love seats on closeout right now that are not in our ad in the paper for only $250. So I mean, we got a lot of different things going on, and of course, Jake's Furnishings, we guarantee the lowest price, and at Jake's Furnishings, you can make it your own.
There you go, and we're sitting on one of those sofas that is up for sale out here, and nice to get off the folding chairs, and Jake's give us a big couch right here that I'd like to have while I've been watching those conference tournaments. And guys, what about those conference tournaments? I mean, this is, you know, you're talking about close games, good teams. It seems like if a team's a 1 seed, they're having a tougher game than a 9-10 is playing. And what a great time to sit at home and watch good basketball. That Big East might be, I think, it's the funnest tournament to watch. You know, I like watching Missouri Valley because there's some guys that you've seen maybe in local high schools or around here that go to the Missouri Valley. But the Big East might be the best league, for sure the best league as far as talent all overall. But, man, the games that they've played this week, and you've seen last year, a couple years ago, there was 4 overtimes. You know, you got the Big Ten tournament going on. A lot of things going on in college basketball that are shaping up to get into that NCAA tournament and not looking good for the Illini.
No, not looking good for the Illini, losing to Michigan yesterday. We'll kind of get into that here in a couple of minutes. First, we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to the hardwood for high school action. The Class 1A state finals over in Peoria. They're at the Civic Center. Went down yesterday. West Central, a winner over Woodlawn, 48-27. Newark defeats Deer Creek Mackinac, a local team, I guess if you want to call them that. 52.
As close as anybody else.
Well, 52-32 was the score of that one. Deer Creek Mackinac will play for the third place game today at 12:15, playing Woodlawn. And Woodlawn, a school that, hey, if you head down I-57 and I-64 where those two interstates meet, that's about where you're going to find Woodlawn at. And the championship game set for 2 o'clock this afternoon. Over the Class 2A, it was Hales Franciscan over Rockford Christian, 56-43, and Murfreesboro, another Southern Illinois team, defeats Pittsfield, 49-35. Over in 3A action, if you've been keeping up on the 3A action, the winner out of the Lincoln Regional, Morton, they were a winner of the Decatur-MacArthur sectional last night. The sectional champions defeated Washington 58-51. They will play Tuesday night at the Springfield Prairie Capital Convention Center. They will take on the winner from the Jerseyville sectional. That is Centralia, who was victorious over Cahokia, 57-48. We were able to see Cahokia earlier on in the season. So Morton and Centralia will duke it out for the 3A Super Sectional.
Yeah, it kind of shows how good really that Mid-Illini conference was. You know, we talk about that team that Lincoln lost to was Morton. Of course, we beat them by 28 or whatever it was early in the season. But Lincoln loses to them in the regional, first round of the regional, and then you've got two teams out of the same conference, Morton and Washington, playing for that sectional championship last night. So really shows you how good Morton really was this year, going 12-2 in that conference. Both teams made it to the sectional championship. Of course, one wins. Morton going on to the Super, which I got to believe Morton's got a good chance of winning that Super sectional against Centralia. We faced them last year and didn't see a whole lot from Centralia coming back. So, Morton's got to have a good chance of getting all the way to Peoria for next weekend.
And on the Class 4A side of the ball, you see Normal Community victorious last night over East St. Louis 81-64. Normal Community, they will have their super sectional also Tuesday night. A home game for them, basically just right up the road there at Illinois State University. Next Tuesday night, so super sectionals.
I'll be heading to that game. My cousin actually starts for Normal Community.
We'll see. There you
junior,
go.
So I'll be up at Redbird on Tuesday night to watch them take on Crete Monee, and they took care of East St. Louis really easily. Listened to it on the radio last night, and Normal's got a good team, got size, got good guards, and they've been playing well at the right time.
So Josh, you'll probably be at that game. I'll probably even head on over there myself to take a look at that one. That's how it went down yesterday on the hardwood for high school and college basketball. Fellas, let's just go ahead and dive right into this. A college basketball lover's dream right now. And if you are a guy who loves to fill out brackets, your mind has just been racing the last couple of days. All of these conference tournaments wrapping up. Selection Sunday tomorrow. Who's in, who's out? Josh, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, it looks like Penn State and Michigan State have really helped their chances of getting in. You talk about Michigan State, and this whole season really hasn't been the Michigan State that we've seen over the years, Jake. But Tom Izzo, they always say he gets them ready for this time. Well, they're playing as well as any right now, and Penn State knocks off Wisconsin yesterday in the Big Ten tournament. So one of those two teams is going to the championship. Which one will it be? You got to take your chances with Tom Izzo and Michigan State, but. That right there does not bode well for the Illini. I think the Illini are still in, although it would have helped. I think it was a for sure if they win yesterday, which of course they didn't. But now, boy, it's going to be close because you're getting a lot of these teams now that maybe should not be getting in, as far as a Penn State, possibly a Michigan State if they lose yesterday in the first round, or they're out. I don't know that they make it. So you're just bumping more teams out and out. Do the Illini get in, Jake? I'm going to say yes still. Do they deserve it? Probably not the way they're playing right now.
Not the last quarter of the season. They've really just fumbled the ball in basketball, but that's exactly what's happened. I mean, the first three quarters of the season, they look like, a top 25 team. I mean, they had some hiccups, but every team does in college.
Right.
But this last quarter, they've just really done a horrible job of taking care of the ball. And, it really looks like it was a horrible job coaching. And it's hard to say that with Bruce Weber.
Well, you were up yesterday, 12 points, up 12, I believe, with just into the second half, maybe 15 minutes to go in the second half. Illinois really looking good, rolling. And then they go on a 7-minute span without a field goal. They get 2 free throws. And that's been the Achilles heel, I guess, of the Illini this year, is where are we going to get baskets from if McCamey's not making shots, or if the other guards aren't making threes, where's the offense come from? Well, it didn't come from anybody during that 7-minute span yesterday, and that's what hurt the Illini, as the Illini fall 60-55. It's going to be a tough one. We always thought the staple of the Illini was that defense. Well, the defense is somewhat holding them, but we can't put the ball in the hole.
No, we have no ball handlers to move the ball around. We have nobody to pass the ball to anybody. The motion offense is great. The problem with the motion offense is you need 3 legitimate shooters, and you need big guys that have a role and they know how to do some pick and rolls and whatnot. And they're just not doing a good job at anywhere on the offensive end as of right now. Dimitri McCamey, he needs to be driving the ball to the hoop. He's not doing that. I mean, you would think 7 minutes with a guy that was
supposed to be a first rounder.
Talent is one of the best.
Maybe the Bob Cousy, one of the award finalists.
Right. Exactly, and you would think 7 minutes without, you get, a pair of free throws, but that's it.
Yeah. That's the problem with the Illini, I think, this year, and we've talked about this all year, Cameron, is that they've gone the way the Railers went for a while, is if threes are going in, the Illini look great. You remember that game against Northwestern where we were just on fire?
Just light it up,
and if they're not making threes, we don't have a guy that can get to the basket and create some sort of an easy layup. We talked about it earlier this morning when we got here. You surely in that 7 minutes you can get a breakaway steal, you can get a fumble, a tip, an offensive rebound, something fluky just to go in. And that's a problem with the Illini. We don't have an athlete or somebody that can go to the rim and get the easy baskets that you need to break up those long dry spells or to stop a run by another team. In Michigan, with that, and they're the youngest team in the Big Ten. You're going to see a lot of Michigan. Tim Hardaway Jr., the guard from the Morris, the big kid inside is just a freshman. They are really going to look good in the next couple of years. Now, they're probably not going to make the NCAA tournament, but they've stopped maybe the Illini from getting there.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed yesterday, and if I'm going to fault the Illini on anything, it's going to be their timing yesterday. I'm always big on timing. If you've got these plays that you execute in practice, obviously you're going to have those down to a T. You're going to have them down to a perfect science. Those pass, split second here, split second there, your timing's going to be off. And then also, you take a timeout to kind of draw up a play or somewhat there in the final seconds of the game. You've got about 3-4 seconds left. You call a timeout. Even after you call a timeout and you draw up a play, the guys are still out there. They have no clue what is going on. You're down by 3 at one point there, under a minute left. Why are you driving to the paint trying to score 2 when you're down by 3? I know that there's always that possibility. You hope you get fouled, but you know Michigan is going to be playing good defense. They're not going to be looking to foul, because a tight game like that, you're going to need every single second that you can get, and I think timing is one of the things that hurt the Illini yesterday.
I'm not sure we've got any plays to run. I haven't seen a big play. You know, you see a lot of other teams that call these plays, and they know exactly what's going to happen, where this ball is going to go, and where we're going to get a shot from, whether it be a post, a three-point shot. It seems like the Illini don't have any plays, and we never get that good, easy, wide-open look or that one-on-one matchup that we want to get to the play. It always boils down to 10 seconds left to go. Yep. Demetri McCamey at the top of the key. Tisdale comes up to set a ball screen, and we pick and pop, or we shoot a three-pointer. Right. And it comes down to that when you got 5 seconds in the shot clock.
Balance, desperation.
You don't have any options. So I'm worried about the Illini's chances of getting in the NCAA. I hope they do, but I'm not sure. Yesterday for sure didn't help.
All right, fellas, we're going to step aside, grab our first commercial break of the broadcast. If you would like to call in and air it out with us, your thoughts on the Illini game yesterday, phone lines are open, 648-5510, the number to call in. If you would like to talk about the Illini or Selection Sunday tomorrow, when we come back, we will break down and we will get individual thoughts as where we think the Illini will pair up and some of those other teams that will be getting the nod tomorrow. We'll step aside, grab a break. We'll be right back. And we're back on the cheap seats this Saturday morning out at Jake's Furnishings. Cameron Kurtz, Josh Komnick, and Jake the Furniture Guy with us. Fellas, before we stepped aside and took that break, we were talking about college basketball and the Illini's chances of making the NCAA tournament this year. Selection Sunday and the NCAA Division I committee will make those determinations tomorrow. Josh, at this point, where do you see the Illini favoring in the big dance if they get in at all?
Well, the problem with the NCAA is that most of the schools in those top, what do you want to call it, the Big Six conferences where you got the Pac-10, Big Ten, Big East, all that kind of stuff, they don't put any of those teams generally from 11 to 16 because those teams are going to be playing possibly a number 1 seed. You know, you're not going to see a team out of the Big Ten be a 16 seed because they're going to give too much of a chance to give that 1 seed a heck of a game. Exactly. So they're going to have to be in that 8 to 10 range, maybe possibly an 11. They may stick a big school in the 11, but the rest of those from 11 to 14 or 12 to 16 really are all those schools of the, maybe you're going to call them mid-major. So if Illinois is going to get in, they've got to be like a 10 or 11, a 9, 10 or 11, something like that, which gives them a really tough matchup in that first round, which is going to happen. You haven't done their body of work through the regular season. So if they get in, they're going to be a 9 or 10, something like that. And they're going to have to really travel too. You know, you get into those good seeds where you don't have to travel that far, which is, I think, a huge thing in this NCAA tournament, is where your fan base has to go, how far you have to travel. Of course, all teams play better when they have a huge crowd. When you can play close to home, like, for instance, last bracketology I saw before Purdue lost on Friday, was Purdue playing in Chicago. Well, that's a huge advantage. You remember when the Illinois made it to the final game, they were in Chicago, a couple other places really close where a lot of Illini fans could travel to. So, bad thing for the Illini, going to be a far way to travel, probably 10 or 11 seed, 9, 10, between 9 and 11 is where I'm going to go if they get in.
Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, they could go as a 12. The problem is you're with the seeds and everything, it's not only about seeding, it's also about betting. And, you know, you don't want to talk about that much, but it actually is. True. It has a lot to do with it. You can't really put a major school like Illinois that can, to be honest, beat any team on any given night, even though they don't beat many teams here lately. But you can't put them down after 12 because you know whoever they're going up against, there's a good chance they're going to win.
Right.
They don't do that. You've never seen them do that.
No,
so
right. Now, my thoughts on it, and you've got the so-called experts right now that go through the bracketology and everything, Josh, like you mentioned. They've got them picked, you know, right now between that 9 and 11, just like what you guys are saying. I don't want to echo any of that a whole lot, but possibly an NIT bid for the Illini. Exactly, where would you put them at in that? Obviously, if you get an NIT bid, you don't even see them being a 1 or a 2 seed in that one. Probably even going as low as a 4 or 5 seed in the National Invitational Tournament, if that's the route that they decide to go.
Well, and who knows? You know, hopefully we don't have to talk about the NIT, but they'll be one of the bigger schools in the NIT, of course. Looking at some of the technology that the furniture guy brings to here when we come to Jake's Furnishing all the time, the iPad has come out, and Illinois right now is at a 9 seed. As of right now, Illinois is a 9 seed playing George Mason in the Ohio State region, which is the East region. If they would happen to beat George Mason, which is a really good basketball team, they would have probably the opportunity to take on the Buckeyes one more time. So right now they've got them in as a 9 seed. That's a big gift, I think, and really not a bad place. You know, if you got to play George Mason, they're going to have tough teams all the way through. You're not going to be a 4 seed and have a couple cake games or anything like that. They're going to have to play right from the tip. And, you know.
But then again, later on in this, Boston U's predicted to be a 16 seed.
Right,
so,
right.
You know.
We never know. We'll find out tomorrow, though. That's a good thing about it.
Phone lines are open, 648-5510, if you want to go ahead and call in. Kind of transitioning gears a little bit from the Illini, you've got other conferences that are winding down, and Josh, coming out of the Patriot League yesterday, a conference that really doesn't get a whole lot of publicity there. Huge win for Bucknell.
Yeah, huge win for Bucknell, and one of the big reasons why we're bringing that up is LCHS graduate Ben Brackney is on that Bucknell team. Bucknell won 72-57, so they will be making the dance in the NCAA tournament. They were the Patriot League champions for this year in the tournament. And, boy, it's got to be a fun year for Mr. Brackney to go out to a school that makes the NCAA tournament right away.
Oh, yeah, he played a crucial minute in that game.
Yeah, he got some time, which is, you know, you as a freshman, you take any time that you can. And I was able to talk with Coach Alexander, and Coach talked to Ben a little bit in the first part of the season. He said one of the coolest things he's got to experience is traveling to Villanova and playing in front of a huge crowd. Villanova, I think, was the top 5 team at the time. I got to think when he hits the floor either Tuesday or Thursday that might the NCAA tournament might wipe away that Villanova.
Some new
travel.
nerves settling in.
Yeah.
That'll be a whole new kind of tournament for that.
And you've seen them play, Jake. They've only lost 1 game in the last 11. That was at Army, and I haven't gotten a chance to see them, but you've said you've seen them and got a real good chance of possibly being not only that 16th seed, but something in that 13 to 15 range where
I think psychology has them up at number 13.
Yeah,
right
have
now,
a chance to beat somebody right away.
You know, I'll be honest, they're one of those teams very well disciplined. You can tell they're well coached. Mm-hmm. They don't come out of timeout and make too many mistakes. I'll tell you that.
Of course not.
But no, they're a team that honestly they can probably beat just about any team on any given night. And this year in the NCAAs, let's face it, there is not that clear number 1 team, number 2 team. So many years, there's a top tier. This year, the top tier is there, but the top tier is beatable. Mm-hmm. No matter where you're at, even if you're in Ohio, even if you're at Duke, you can go down the whole list there. They're all beatable. A team like Bucknell that's so well coached and so disciplined, they can pull some off. They can pull a couple wins out of the hat, and who knows, maybe make that run.
How many times have we seen that, though, this season? And, Jake, as long as we've been coming out here, we've probably been saying that even from the get-go, that there was no clear, just outright team that was going to go ahead and, turn heads, make things happen all year. Fellas, a school that really made a statement from about the middle point of the season on, and a kid who has become so popular that they're taking his name and even making it into a verb. Jimmer Fredette from BYU puts up 52 points last night, all on his own. Very seldomly will you see a college basketball player put up 52 points on his own. Had 33 there at the half. he's been one of those factors that has put BYU up toward the top of those top 25 teams. There a couple of weeks ago, they were in the mention with the top 5, and they can run with some of those bigger schools.
Well, and I'd love for Jimmer Fredette to be the player of the year in college basketball. I think that, Nolan Smith's probably going to get it, although the injury yesterday probably is going to hurt him in chances. But if you're going to go regular season, he's probably, they're going to get the pub.
Yep.
They've got Duke, always gets that little extra notch. But 52 points, the thing about that, guys, 52 points, he only had one free throw.
Yep.
One free throw made. You think a guy getting 52 points, or Jordan Nelson had 48 this year. I believe he was 14 of 16 from the line. That's 14 extra points of easy points, if you want to call them that. Jimmer Fredette had one free throw made, and that's huge. 52 points in a conference championship, or not championship, but a game to go to the conference championship. I think he's player of the year. I hope he's player of the year. I doubt if he gets it, but nice story out of a conference or a team that you don't expect a lot of out of basketball.
The problem with them going into a tournament situation, though, especially in college, is you see it all the time. Well, Lamar Odom a few years back coming in, all the hype, all the plug, and they get shut down.
Yeah,
you know.
And that's a problem, now as this thing comes out. But, guys, I want to pose a question to you guys. What are your top 4 seeds? And callers, call in. I want to hear who's the top 4 seeds, even before we get into this conference championship, whether it be today or tomorrow as the Big Ten is. Give us a call, 648-5510. I want to hear your number 1 seeds, your 4 number 1 seeds. I'll have Cameron go over his first, but I want to hear some more responses out there from our listeners.
Well, the top number 4 seeds that I'm going to go with, and of course they could go a couple of different ways depending on what the selection committee does and as far as how they pair those teams up as far as a regional. And any of these teams could go a number 1 or number 2 seed in their respective regional. But Ohio State, you got to take a look at the Buckeyes coming out of the Big Ten Conference. They've been the team that has been making the statement in the Big Ten all year round. They've given Illinois fits there earlier on in the season, and that they were the team that a lot of people were fearful of. You've got a very good freshman in Jaron Solinger, probably one of those guys who's going to be a one-and-done type of athlete, probably going to go out for the NBA draft this year. They are the number 1 ranked team in the country right now. I'm going to go ahead and put them at a number 1 seed. Also, another number 1 seed that I will take a look at is the number 2 team in the country, Bill Self's Kansas Jayhawks. They're a team that fought for that number 1 spot between Ohio State. They took the number 1 spot there a couple of weeks ago for the briefest of periods and then lost to Kansas State, but then were able to fight their way back. They've been going 1-2 the last couple of weeks. I'm going to go ahead and say out of the Big 12 Conference, we'll give Kansas a nod at a number 1 seed. Also coming out of the Big East, you got to take a look at Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh. I watch them play all the time, as many chances as I can get. Every time when it comes down to college basketball time and Selection Sunday, I've always put Pitt up toward the top of my bracket just because I love to see them play. And then finally, my other number 1 seed that I'm going to give to the reigning national champions, Coach K and his Blue Devils of Duke, coming out of the ACC. And the ACC and the Big East, Josh, we mentioned there earlier, are probably the 2 powerhouse conferences right now anyway that you could argue that is where the best competition is coming from. This is where the best athletes are playing, and these are where these teams can beat any team in the entire nation on any given night. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and say. I'm going to give Ohio State, Kansas, Pittsburgh, and Duke.
Go ahead, Jake.
I like Ohio State. I like Kansas. You know what? I'm not going to agree with Pittsburgh, actually, but I am going to agree Duke. And then, to be honest, hook 'em horns.
Horns. I like that.
I'm bringing Texas. Texas is tough.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, if you want to write it down, put it on tape.
There you go. It's on.
Texas,
it's on the internet.
Texas is going to win the national championship.
Texas for the national championship from the furniture guy, Jake. Of course, I'm going to go Ohio State. As Cameron, I love that Pittsburgh team. Very tough out of the Big East. I'm going to go Notre Dame also. I just like the way they play. They can score in many different ways. Of course, they lost that tough one last night to Louisville, which Louisville, I mean, you can't count them out for a number 1 seed. If they go ahead and win against UConn today in the championship, man, does that improve their stock a little bit. And I'm going to go with Kansas. They're sometimes they falter. Their defense is lackluster at times, but they've got maybe the most potent offense in the league or in the NCAA, and they played 9 deep, and I think that's a big key when you get down to playing these back-to-back games is how many guys you can play, what kind of rest. That's the thing I worry about Ohio State. they don't play a lot of bench guys, and how many times can Sullinger get knocked to the floor and keep getting back up? I know he's a huge man, but yesterday you saw he just got pummeled when he goes. It was almost like that hack-a-shack type of thing, although he's a good free throw shooter. But he takes the football wars underneath the basket.
And fellas, also while you're filling out your brackets this weekend, a couple of teams that you want to watch out for, maybe not necessarily going to get that number 1 or number 2 seed, but a team that you really got to watch out for, a dangerous team, is St. John's. I like St. John's. I like the way that they've been playing. I like the way that they've come on pretty strong here in the last couple of weeks. They're playing good basketball. They're playing tough competition, even though that they come from a smaller conference. Josh, you mentioned it there, a mid-major conference. You got to like what St. John's is able to do, and then also Georgetown, and you've also got to take a look at UConn with Kemba Walker and what he's been able to do all season round. Those are a couple other teams that I want to go ahead and also kind of keep my eye on, kind of put them on the back burner for a little bit, but St. John's would be a team that I think is going to surprise a lot of people when it comes down to it.
Well, St. John's out of the Big East, so they play in a good conference, but it's that they don't play well on the road, Jake, and when you get into this tournament, it's tough to, if you don't, obviously you don't have home games now.
That's exactly right.
They don't, if they're not in Madison Square Garden or their home gym, they just don't seem to play real well. I like, if you want to call it a sleeper team, I like Syracuse. That zone is
Syracuse is fun to watch too,
play against. They're so long, and they can score the basketball. But they
like the big game. They played a couple big games, and they pulled out some big victories this year.
And there's so many college teams that can't shoot the ball really well, and against that zone, you better be able to shoot it, and that's how you're going to win. Kemba Walker was just amazing yesterday against them, and he's, of course, I think he's a top 5 pick in the NBA draft next year. But Jay, give us a sleeper. Of course, you called Texas. That's not necessarily a sleeper. They've been up there in the top 5, but give us a sleeper who some of those guys can mark down in their brackets.
A team that a team I like, I can't wait to see in the tournament's Purdue. Mm-hmm. You can't really consider them a sleeper because they are so good. And at the beginning of the year, let's face it, were they top 5 team?
Yeah.
If I'm thinking right.
And then they get beat in the first game.
That's exactly right. But still, they have
They're good.
they did lose their big dude there, but I can't think of his name right now.
But they're good. There's no doubt.
A team that I'd like to see, there's Gonzaga, of course, all the time. In the NCAA tournament this year, let's go with Kentucky.
A lot of young guys, but definitely the talent to do it.
Well, they were there last year.
Yeah.
Of course, coaching is a big thing, but they're a team that can win on the road and can do some surprises. I don't know how they'll be seeded. I think bracketology may have them as a top 5 seed or something, but they could be a team that could really make a run.
Gentlemen, we're going to step aside, take another commercial break. We will step aside. We will be back. We'll take a full break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned. And we're back on the cheap seats out here at Jake's Furnishings this morning. And, fellas, we were wrapping up our discussion there on college basketball. And before we go ahead and dive into a little bit of baseball, let's go ahead and do our trivia question here that we have for our listeners this morning. 648-5510, the number to call in, and you will pick up a free hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. Here is today's trivia question. It has to do with high school basketball. Here it is. I need the year. When did the IHSA start a multiple class system for boys basketball? Okay, there was always the 2-class system, and then they went to a 4-class system. I need the year that the IHSA went from a 2-class system to a 4-class system.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, well, it wasn't all that long ago, so go ahead, call us in, 648-5510, the number to call in. Be the first correct caller, you get a free pizza from Little Caesars. Fellas, let's go ahead and talk Major League Baseball just a little bit. Spring training going on, and Jake, I know you want to talk about the Cardinals. You're just itching to talk about them. Let's go.
Well, big season. I'm thinking the Cardinals are going to win it all, bring home another championship, because that's just how we roll in St. Louis. No, we've got some question marks. Wainwright obviously went down, but we do have some young arms. Kyle McClellan, who I believe should have been a starter from the beginning of his career. They have him trying out for the 5th starter spot. They've got a couple young guys that they could insert in that position, which, the Cardinals, for the first time in a few years, they actually have some options that I think are legitimate options. With Yami Garcia, you got Carpenter in the front of the rotation. I think they're pretty solid. Jake Westbrook is a solid performer. You know you're going to get out of him. And then the last question mark you have there is Kyle Loesch. So far in spring training, he's looked like the Kyle Loesch of old. If that happens, I mean, that's a number 3 starter. So you basically have 3 number 3 starters. That really helps out quite a bit. You can compete with about any team with that kind of starting pitching. The Berkman experiment, we'll see how that goes. You know, as you get older, you know, I'm only 33 and I've experienced it a little bit, but you know, your knees and stuff, they wear down. And as a major league athlete, a major athlete of any kind of sport, your knees and stuff are going to wear down just because you're constantly putting pressure on them and doing more than what a normal person would do. So the experiment with Berkman in the outfield could be kind of scary, and that's going to be the big question mark, I think, as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think if I have, and I'm a Cub fan, and I think if the Cardinal fans have a concern, it's your defense. How do you track balls down in the outfield? Of course, you've got the speedy center fielder and
Matt Holliday.
The center fielder.
Center field, Colby Rasmus.
Rasmus can track him in the outfield,
Yep.
but you've got Holliday and Berkman on both ends.
Yep.
And who's going to cover those gaps that Rasmus can't get? Both those guys can't run, and Holliday has been, you know, shown that he can't sometimes catch a fly ball either.
Correct.
So,
well, and that's the one thing that the Cardinals actually have going for them a little bit here is through their system and with Dave Duncan, they're a ground ball pitching team. And they pitch. I mean, you'll see it every year. Even when Joel Pinheiro had his big year, that he made a lot of money. They pitched a ground ball. They pitched a contact. You got David Freese on the infield. He's a very solid third baseman as a defender. Terrio doesn't have a lot of range. That one kind of, I don't know there. But Skip Schumacher actually does have some pretty decent range as a second baseman and a plus arm. We'll see how he turns this year. Last year he had quite a few errors, kicked the ball around a little bit. But you do have Albert Pujols there, which actually, as a defender, he makes a lot of infielders look a little bit better with how he scoops the ball and whatnot.
And as much ground as he can cover, too.
Yes, true.
Okay, so we've got the Cardinals' perspective on it now. We will now turn to our resident Cubs expert here, Josh. What do you think? The Cubs have probably got quite a few question marks on their end, too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think everybody who doesn't right now, unless you're maybe the Red Sox or somebody like that went out and spent a ton of money and have all-stars at every position. But, you know, you look at the Cubs, and if Colvin doesn't play right field every game and Fukudome goes down to single A, there's something wrong here because this guy could have been a Rookie of the Year last year in the National League if he would have played more games. He only played something like 70 or 80 games last year. He should be out there for 140 games. He can stick. He plays a good outfield. He's left-handed at the plate. You've got a good center fielder, Marlon Byrd. Left fielder is not good. You know, Soriano. If we can hit 240 out of him and get a couple home runs and a couple RBIs and get on base a little bit, we'll be okay with that. I think the key is Manny Ramirez, or not Manny Ramirez. I wish the key was Manny Ramirez.
Ramos
Ramirez is the key. I think he had a bad year last year, and a lot of times you see major leaguers, and you hope for the Cubs' sake anyway, that he had a bad year last year and he comes back strong because we're missing somewhat of a bat in Derek Lee. And our first baseman now has said already that he's not going to change his style of hitting. He hit 196 last year, but he doesn't need to change. So we're not going to get a lot out of there. Our second baseman's not very good. Castro's pretty decent at shortstop. Our catcher needs to improve from last year. He was good the 2 years ago, Soto.
Yeah.
But pitching, can we pitch? Can we get to? We've got Kerry Wood back now. Is he back to where he was a couple years ago when the Cubs decided they don't need 34 saves anymore out of him and they let him go for nothing?
I like Kerry Woods setting up for Marmol there in the bullpen. The problem with Kerry Woods is he is no longer in the Yankees organization. Mariano Rivera, to be honest, he changed Kerry Woods' career. He reinvented it, to be honest. Now that he doesn't have that influence in the bullpen with him and he's the head dog again, is he going to go back to his old ways where he says, I am the top dog. I'll do what I want here and start throwing his own style of baseball as opposed to working in a system to where he actually flourished at the end of last year. He looked great at the end of last year. To be honest, as a Cardinal fan, I would have wanted him on my team.
Well, and the paper says the Chicago Cubs' #1 starter shuts out Chicago White Sox yesterday, which that was Dempster. So if we've got Dempster as our #1 starter, we've got some issues pitching. We got Garza. He didn't look good the other day. Gave up 5 in the first inning.
Garza kind of had some issues towards the end of last year.
Right. And
he can't. That's it's a potential thing, just like he had with Zambrano since his rookie year. It's a potential thing. He looks great. He's got the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the electric fastball, the big curve. He's got the stuff. But the problem is, when's he going to put it all together?
Well, and the Cubs, and I think that's been the thing of the Cubs for as many years as I've watched them, is when can they put it together? They can always put out a field of talent on the team. This club is as talented as anybody in the National League, I think, as far as up to down, top to bottom. You're talking about hitting, defense. They got a little speed, that kind of thing. But when can they put it together? And maybe this, hopefully the new manager can get them going. I don't know. We've battled this for 31 years that I've watched them at least. So that's the big thing. I think everybody in Major League Baseball, right now you're just feeling your way out of it. Sure, there's some top teams that are there. Cardinals could be one of them. Pitching, has hurt them, but it'll be interesting to see. It's right around the corner. Those guys are playing a lot of spring training games now, and hopefully nobody gets hurt, and we'll be ready for opening day.
Opening day is upon us here in a couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And Josh, let's go ahead and turn to the National Basketball Association. And the Chicago Bulls have been doing pretty well here. Derrick Rose scoring 34 points.
Well, yeah, 34 last night, and I'm not a big NBA fan. I don't watch it. I have started to watch the Bulls, and that's it, just because they play really well. You see a lot of the NBA teams that their season's so long, they're playing back-to-back nights, and I understand they get tired, but they don't give a lot of effort. Jake, the Bulls give as good an effort as I've seen in the NBA. You got Derrick Rose. I think this Thibodeau coach is Coach of the Year for sure.
Absolutely.
I think Derrick Rose is Player of the Year in the NBA, MVP, not just because I'm a Bulls fan of what he brings to the table. I watched him the other night, and he's as lightning quick, and as Stacey King said it on the broadcast, he's like a pogo stick when he gets in the lane. He can hop and jump and get up, and you talked about it earlier this morning. He's so strong getting to the rim. The Bulls team is not as talented as a lot of these teams, but they just play better together than anybody else right now.
Absolutely. When he attacks the rim, he goes in there, and he's so violent. Guys will hit him. He'll bounce off them, and he's so strong. He can get hit a couple different times from a couple different angles and still put a ball up that's on the rim that has a chance of going in. Very smart with the ball. They're a fun team to watch, too.
Yeah, second in the East right now behind Boston. Boston's
half game out.
Half game. 46-17 is Boston. The Bulls are 46-18. They beat the Hawks last night, 94-76. They take on the old team from Carlos Boozer, the Utah Jazz, tonight. So that'll be an interesting matchup with the Jazz now that Carlos Boozer will be going up against his old team. But it's a different Bulls team than we've seen in the last couple of years. I think they finally have a coach that these guys are playing well for, respect. Yeah. This guy has been an assistant for a long time in Tom Thibodeau, and what I like is he has them playing hard. I wasn't a big fan of Joakim Noah when he came out of Florida. He was an excellent college player. He gives max effort every night out, and I think he realizes that that's the only way I'm going to stay in the league.
That's exactly right.
So I've got to give everything I got, and they didn't really go after anybody at the trade deadline, but as you talked about it earlier this morning, maybe they're saving because they've got 2 draft picks coming up in the next year's draft. But boy, they've got a fun team to watch. They play hard, they play defense, and Carlos Boozer has been a big surprise to me. I wasn't real pleased with the signing after we lost out on King James or whoever, but Boozer has been a huge addition to this team, and they were winning without him, and now they're even better, of course, with him.
Yeah. Well, and the question I had before is why weren't they trading Joakim Noah? Because that was the holdup. They didn't want to trade Joakim Noah for Carmelo Anthony. Mm-hmm. And they didn't pull the trigger on that. And I'm like, man, I just don't see why. Well, now I'm seeing it. You put that much hustle in this team that can score. You need that type of player.
Rebound.
Somebody not to do all the dirty work, and not only does he do the dirty work, and you say that dirty work. Well, he's 7 foot tall. He does the dirty work, and he's the first one up to each end of the floor.
Yeah.
He's as fast as anybody on the team, and he'll consistently run all the way up and down the court, which is huge.
Right. It all makes sense now.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And you're right, Coach Thibodeau.
That's why we're not the general managers.
Thank God. Jeez, I'd have 5 small forwards playing on my team, you know.
Well, they've actually given me a reason to watch the NBA, and the Bulls have been are fun to watch, and it's kind of getting back to the old Bulls of where we wouldn't miss a game watching it when they had Jordan and that, and now you don't want to miss a game because they're really playing well and fun to watch.
Kind of taking a look at another team, and this has area implications because out of Springfield, Landfair High School graduate Andre Iguodala adds 13 points and 9 rebounds, 8 assists for the Philadelphia 76ers. They beat the Boston Celtics last night.
That's what we need. We need the Celtics to lose.
89-86 of that one. Celtics fall by 3, and Josh, you hit the nail right on the head right there. You got the Celtics, definitely one of the hottest teams in the NBA year in and year out, and that's what's going to play into the Bulls' hands here in the next couple of weeks. And fellas, it's not going to be too much longer before we'll start talking playoff situation implications for that. Yeah, you want to talk about playoffs, Jake? Well, we'll probably be getting to that for the NBA in the next couple of weeks or so, but that is going to play right in to the Bulls' hands with Boston getting beat last night.
Well, and hopefully, the problem is you got to think about the Magic too. You know, the Magic are one of the most talented teams with Dwight Howard. Who can stop him? Nobody can. But that's going to be the thing where, if somebody can slow down the Magic when you get into that playoff series and be able to slow down all the athletes and the basketball players and the superstars that the Magic have put on a team now. I don't know if the Bulls can stay with them, but they'll sure give them a run for when that happens to get into the playoffs.
The playoffs there could be a lot of fun this year. There's a lot of really good teams. Orlando Magic, they actually have some issues since they made a big trade. They're not coming together yet, but they have the athletes that should be able to come together. You have the Bulls in there, obviously. Fun team to watch, maybe New York Knicks, just because of how much offense they have. They're a typical Mike D'Antoni team. The old Phoenix Suns, they like to run and gun and not play that Olay defense, if you know what I mean. Just let them go through, score, so we can get the ball back. But they are kind of fun to watch, I'm not going to lie, for offense.
Well, and too, after a article in the paper today, Bradley, of course, fires Jim Les as their head basketball coach, and the stud from Bradley that had to sit out this year, Sam Maniscalco, has actually graduated from Bradley and is thinking about transferring to the University of Illinois for next year. He's graduated, and from what I understand, he is obligated. He can play next year for Illinois if he goes into a master's program that Bradley does not offer and Illinois does. So
that would grant him next year.
Yeah, and you talk about losing some seniors, a point guard. This guy has had a great career at Bradley. He's, for whatever reason, wants to transfer out of Bradley. 1,210 points in basically 3 years at Bradley, and that's a lot of points for 3 years. He's the Missouri Valley active career assist leader at 355. He's an all-out hustle guy. He had an ankle injury after 6 games with Bradley and decided to shut it down for his season and was granted a red shirt for his 5th year. So, you lose McCamey, maybe you add Maniscalco for next year, which would be huge for the Illini with a young team coming back next year.
I'm sure Bruce Weber is going to be taking a look at that, and I mean, really, why wouldn't you? And from Maniscalco, kind of coming from his point of view, really, why wouldn't you? You have an injury that kind of plagues your season this year. If you do decide to go ahead and enter into a master's program, really, it's a win-win situation for him.
Yeah.
He's getting that extra year of eligibility, which will help him continue his playing days. Stay in shape. Why not? You get to go to school for free, and also help further your education. I mean, if he's thinking about going into a master's program, I mean, obviously that's going to help him even in his years after basketball.
Well, and it'd be funny to see how bad he really wants to go to Illinois, because if his, just say his master wants to be in business, well, probably both schools offer that. Well, if he's going to have to pick something that Bradley doesn't offer that Illinois does, and see how basketball really is important to him on his mind, because if he changes his master's degree just to go play for 1 year as an Illini.
Fellas, some local stuff that we have to cover here in our final few minutes. Lincoln College basketball, they're in the national tournament here once again, the defending national champions out of the NJCAA Division II. They will be taking on Lakeland, Ohio at 8:30 Tuesday night over in Danville. And Josh, I know when we had Coach Kirk Whiteman on earlier in the season, he stressed that Lakeland was one of those teams that can give you fits. And he kind of put the emphasis out there even early on that they're a team that should be feared.
Well, and Lincoln College comes in as the number 3 seed in the tournament. And with Coach, you read some stuff. I've actually got a chance to talk with him, and he said he likes his experience coming back. You know, you've got several players, of course, Kyle Turpin, Demarius Summerall, who were big contributors last year to the team that won the national tournament. And going back to Danville, it's kind of, just a couple-hour drive for Lynx fans and Lynx students that can head over to the national tournament. I know they had a big crowd last year for it, and probably a big crowd heading over on Tuesday night too to play Lakeland, Ohio. Which at this point, you get to anywhere in the national tournament, every team's going to be good. You've got to perform at your best, and hopefully the Lynx can do it. Bring home another national championship, and would be pretty sweet back-to-back championships. I think Coach Whiteman has had a championship, and now he's back at the national tournament again. What a first couple years start for Coach Whiteman and the Lynx.
And Lincoln High School graduate Louis Schonauer, a part of that Lynx program and a very well-respected program. And you, just even at the junior college level, you put the name around out across the state of Illinois, in this region, and across the country. Teams, they're fearing Lincoln College right now. Also, Chester East Lincoln 8th grade girls volleyball team, they win the IESA Hartsburg-Emden Regional the other night, defeating West Lincoln Broadwell. Chester East, congratulations go out to their 8th grade girls volleyball team. Fellas, a couple other things that kind of we're wrapping up here. Jake, you've got a great special going on out here all the time. You're calling it your spring forward savings, kind of in correlation with daylight savings time. Huge sale on just about everything out here.
Oh yeah, just a quick recap of what we got here in the store. We've got sectionals starting at $6.99. Some beautiful sofas starting at $3.99. Recliners, I got them starting at around $200. And just so everybody knows, we have just recently opened up our new Bimco bedding showcase gallery here. So a lot of new mattresses, including Tempur-Pedic style memory foam mattresses and latex mattresses.
Very nice. And Josh, we've been kind of lounging around today a little bit, if you want to call it that. Jake has graciously put us on this brand new leather couch that he has here. Very comfortable. It's a lot comfortable to sit in as opposed to the folding chairs that we're used to sitting in. So we've been on the couch today, and we thank Jake for having us out here, and great savings that he's got going on out here. And we, of course, we thank all of our sponsors: State Bank of Lincoln, KC Ultra Graphics, Jim Grimaldi, the attorney, they're uptown, the Christian Village. They've been very hospitable to us there in the last couple of weeks that we have. Rail Splitter Veterinary Wellness Center, we picked them up as a sponsor last week, and we also picked up a new sponsor with Lincoln Speedway out there at the county fairgrounds.
Getting time to for that to start up, the races, and NASCAR is going now, of course. And then next week, Cameron will be at the Knights of Columbus Hall here in Lincoln. For please come out and join us for the Polar Plunge kickoff, as we're going to try and get Cameron Kurtz out in the water on Saturday after throwing on his bathing suit on the about the last weekend in March, and we're going to try and get him out there for the Polar Plunge kickoff out at Lincoln Lakes. We're going to be at the Knights of Columbus. We're going to be kicking off there. Join us there first, and then we're going to be having a limo sent up for Cameron to escort him out to the Lincoln Lakes to take that plunge. A great benefit, a great thing that goes on. It's getting bigger and bigger every year. And it's a neat thing to have. You hear a lot of people around areas and in Illinois having things like this, and Lincoln's one of the biggest ones. And come out and help us kick off that. It'll be a lot of fun out at the Knights of Columbus next week.
And Josh, you're bringing this to my attention. This is news to me, so we'll see if that goes down there next week out at the KC's in Lincoln. Make sure you join us, fellas. That is going to go ahead and wrap it up for this March 12th edition of the Cheap Seats. Real quickly, though, before we sign off, no one did get our trivia question today. Unfortunately, we did not have a caller for it. Here was the question: when did the IHSA start a multiple class system for boys basketball? They had a 2-class system there. Start of 1972 was the start of the 2-class system, and the 4-class system just started a couple of years ago in 2008. Lawrenceville won the Class A, and Dalton Thornridge won the Class 2A there during the 1972 season. And our local team, Mount Pulaski, won it all in 1976 and was runner-up in 1984. So I would have taken either one of those years. I would have taken the 1972 answer for the 2-class system or 2008 for the 4-class system. Jake, we thank you for having us out here. For the Furniture Guy, Jake Johnson, and for my co-host, Josh Komnick, for our camera operator, TJ Trail, general manager, Jim Ash, and Paula Kodat, our technical producer back at the station. This is Cameron Kurtz thanking everyone for listening, and until next week from the KCs, we'll see you down the road.